Top Gun Maverick is finally here after numerous delays due to the pandemic. The long-awaited sequel has already been praised by the critics who got a chance to see it in early May. It scored pretty much 5 out of 5 across the board, which is often rare to see for a sequel, and one for that had such a large gap since the original. Tom Cruise for years was pushed by Paramount Pictures to get the ball rolling on a sequel, which is not surprising since the 1986 film cost $15 million and made well over $350 million at the box office. The studio heads saw another opportunity to make a big profit, but Tom Cruise wasn't ready. There had been scripts developed over the years, but he was never happy with them. In 2010 it was announced that a sequel was officially in the works, with Tony Scott returning to the director's chair. But due to his suicide in 2012, that put the brakes on the project. Director Joseph Kosinski, who worked with Cruise on Oblivion, took over, and with the writer and director of the recent Mission Impossible films, Christopher McQuarrie, jumping on board to help refine the script with the other writers, things were moving forward. Tom the past decade has been pushing to keep action in camera and limiting the use of CGI, and for Top Gun Maverick to work, he wanted to capture the magic of the original and go one step further and actually fly the fighter jet himself, which you can imagine would be an insurance nightmare. With the sequels to the Mission Impossible films, new technology was developed for mounting cameras, so it gave Top Gun 2 the benefit of filming jaw-dropping dynamic sequences, especially in the cockpit, without having to rely on rear screen projection. Legendary producer Jerry Bruckheimer said, "The actors also had to learn how to run the cameras, because when they are up in the jet they have to direct themselves essentially. They also need to be taught about the lighting, cinematography and editing, as this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity." With Cruise being a big advocate for cinema and the big screen experience, Top Gun Maverick makes use of the IMAX format. The director Joseph Kosinski explained that the team spent more than a year with the Navy forces to use the IMAX cameras inside the cockpit, with 4 cameras facing toward the actors and facing forward, in addition to cameras mounted all over the exteriors of the aircraft. He explained that the audience should feel the authenticity, strain, speed and gravitational forces, something that cannot be achieved without soundstage or visual effects, which needed a tremendous amount of effort and work. He added that more than 800 hours of footage had been shot for the film. With the film's story, we find Maverick after 30 years serving as a US Navy test pilot and has dodged promotion to continue flying. As Rear Admiral Chester Kane, played by the always reliable and short-tempered Ed Harris, plans to shut down the hypersonic Dark Star scramjet program and redirect the funds to drone programs, which he believes is the future of combat. Maverick decides to take the prototype to its Mach 10 speed objective before Kane can arrive. Maverick reaches his objective but decides to push it further, resulting in the prototype's destruction. Kane wants to ground Maverick, but he has been ordered to NAS North Island by his friend and former rival, Admiral Tom Kazansky, aka Iceman. Maverick is returning to Top Gun. Maverick has just 3 weeks to train a new group of elite pilots, including Goose's son Rooster, who is not pleased to see Maverick. This new team have to destroy a uranium enrichment facility of a rogue nation, but the mission is going to require precision targeting and approach at low altitudes to avoid enemy radar, which the pilots think can't be done. With so much hype for Top Gun Maverick, it was difficult to ignore it and not get swept up by it all. Hearing about the glowing reviews, your expectations are certainly amplified before seeing it. With all big blockbusters, the early reviews, especially with all the superhero movies as of late, with critics declaring it's the best film ever. I've learned to temper my expectations because I've been burned before, with the hype train being very misleading, but thankfully Top Gun Maverick does really deliver in many areas, but perhaps my anticipation for it was a tad too high. If you have the opportunity to see it in IMAX, then it's a must. It would be a disservice not to, and you would be missing out because the large format film really blows you away when you see an incredible photography of the fighter jets jumping into action, or just seeing Tom Cruise take off from the hangar and see the G-force rocking back and forth in his seat. It's truly amazing. There is no CGI trickery for a large number of shots. It is a rare experience, I would say. The original Top Gun was panned by a lot of the critics at the time despite its huge success. They felt it dragged its feet once it was on the ground, the story was wafer thin, and the only enjoyment you could take from it was when it jumped into the skies for training or getting involved in a dogfight. The access they got at the time was unprecedented. The footage they captured made it a special event, but also their music played a huge part in its success, with many declaring the film was like an extended music video. With the sequel, it's very apparent that Tom Cruise really wanted a story that worked and made the prospect of doing a sequel worthwhile, and this is where the sequel really outshines the original in many areas. It's not a complicated plot, it's very straightforward, but it manages to show Maverick in a different light, highlighting the mistakes he has made in the past and how he clings on to being in the sky and avoiding promotion. He finally comes to facing his past and making the difficult decision about his future. When I heard Harold Faltermeyer was returning to compose the score, I was super excited, because I loved his work for the original and his scores to Beverly Hills Cop, The Running Man and Tango and Cash. These were all classic scores of the 80s, but then I find out Hans Zimmer is involved and composer Lon Balfe was producing behind the scenes and contributing to the music. And I also noticed Lady Gaga is credited, though I don't know what else she contributes outside of her song. I was thinking, why does this movie need 4 composers? When you hear Faltermeyer's Top Gun anthem kick in, it does give you chills. It's an amazing piece of music, and the joy of hearing Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins was a fantastic nostalgic trip. Hearing it on those IMAX speakers put a big smile on my face. It's a song that hasn't dated, and I'm glad they didn't re-record it, or just made a lousy attempt to modernise it. It would have been awful. The new Lady Gaga song Hold My Hand, which plays during the end credits, isn't bad and does a serviceable job, but doesn't come close to Take My Breath Away by Berlin. With this sequel, there is less focus on pop songs, so the soundtrack album does have more tracks dedicated to the original score. With 4 composers attached, there isn't much in the way of music in the film outside of a few select scenes, or if there was more, it was drowned out by the sound effects. With Hans Zimmer and Lon Balfe involved, there is the usual bwam sounds you come to expect. The music outside of Faltermeyer's original theme just sounded like they tempted the film with music from Mission Impossible Fallout, for example, and just left it in there. So I wish they did something more creative instead of playing it safe. The film does recapture moments of the original. Instead of having the volleyball sequence, they swap it for American football on the beach for a team building exercise. The love interest, Jennifer Connelly, worked for me. There was a definite chemistry between her and Cruise, compared to Kelly McGillis from the original. Also, did anyone notice when Jennifer appears on camera, the David Bowie song Let's Dance kicks in? I thought that was a subtle reference to Labyrinth. It follows similar beats to the 1986 film in terms of their training, but there is enough added to it to make it a genuine sequel instead of a soft reboot. The new pilots are cast well and do get their time to shine, so they don't feel like generic supporting characters. Miles Teller is perfect casting, and definitely looks like the son of Anthony Edwards who played Goose. Hangman, played by Glenn Powell, is written to be a massive knob throughout, but you know he will redeem himself by the end. It's great to see John Hamm on screen, he's a solid actor. Val Kilmer gets a small but important role in the movie. It's always a pleasure seeing him, and it's very sad what's happened to him in recent years. Watch the Val documentary, it's superb and also a bit heartbreaking. With the original dealing with protecting international waters and keeping their airspace free from the enemy, this one they do have a mission that seems impossible to do. The enemies are nondescript bad guys, so it can be difficult to get invested when the enemy has no real screen time to show they are the villains of the piece and mean business. The film gets away with it by building suspense just down to the fact that the mission is incredibly risky and difficult. It is a very good film, but I do think my expectations were raised a bit too high, just down to the glowing reviews and top-rated scores. It is a solid sequel and really does something special with its aerial photography, and provides an interesting story and a good arc for Maverick. It's certainly going to be a must-have title to own when it hits 4K Blu-ray. Tom Cruise always goes above and beyond with his movies, which you have to applaud. His skill is providing solid entertainment and striving to do something new, which makes his films a worthwhile trip to the cinema. He is very old school, and that's what I love about his attitude and passion for film. A very strong sequel and one of the most rewarding in recent years, surpassing the original and a definite must to see on the big screen. Don't wait around for it to come to streaming. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like button and click the bell to be notified of my latest retrospectives and reviews. Big thanks to my patrons for supporting the channel. If you want to get involved and gain early access to my content and exclusive videos, then follow the link below.